Hello and welcome to Living a Culture of Life podcast by Human Life International. I'm your host, Colleen, and I'm joined today by Mayra Rodriguez. Welcome to the podcast, Mayra.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Colleen. Thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you for being on. I'm very excited to hear your story today because you used to work for Planned Parenthood and then you pointed out some of the things that you thought shouldn't be happening that were going on there and ended up getting fired, I believe, and then you sued them. Is that kind of the good capsule summary for our audience?
That is a really good summary of what happened, of the facts, right?
Yeah. So I guess to jump into your story today, what first led you to work at Planned Parenthood? Why did you first start working for their organization?
I think my story helps a lot of the people understand this so-called group Catholics for choice, right? If there's such a thing. I'm born and raised in Mexico. I'm a Catholic, right? I was raised against abortion or to see abortion wrong, right? But then in that same process, there goes the birth control, right? Access to birth control, it becomes normal, even as part of a Catholic religion, right? Like people are not how could I say it? Like in the older times, Catholic women will not use birth control, right? But something happened on the culture change. Then now you became normalized on the uses of birth control, right? And most women, even women that go to church, I can assure you, are under some sort of birth control, right? So, and that's how I started. So, coming from Mexico and growing up in Mexico, I moved to this beautiful country when I was about 18 years of age, and my dream has always been to be in the medical field in my country. Here I went to do some kind of like admin studies, like healthcare management and community college. But my friend worked for this organization, right? And she said they help women. I wanted to help women. And she said they need people who speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. So to me, that means that this organization wants to help women and Latinos, right? Hispanic women, which that's my people, right? So I remember that she said, we just do women scared and stuff like that. I knew very little about Planned Parenthood. I mean, abortion wasn't a topic in my house. We were from Mexico. Mexico back then, it was illegal. So it wasn't that we talked much about it. My friend worked in the non abortion side, so she hardly mentioned abortions, right? Because she worked on the other side of Planned Parenthood, right? So when
Mhm.
she said, hey, you'll get holidays off, it's an office time of hours kind of job. You're like jackpot, right? And then I get to help my people. So I walk into the doors of Planned Parenthood, and I'm gonna be honest with you. That very first day, as I was crossing the street for their headquarters, and now the headquarters here in Phoenix was the second floor. Then they had the abortion facility on the bottom and the non-abortion facility on the other side, but same building. So
Mhm.
as I'm crossing the street, there's this lady praying on the sidewalk. And I was like, she goes, don't go in there. And I was like, okay, that's just weird. So I went in there and I quickly asked the HR director, what is that lady doing? She said, I don't mind her. She doesn't like some of the stuff we do. And obviously my face must have looked like, what is that? Because she quickly asked me, what do you think about abortion? And Colleen, I thought I answered like a great Christian person. I wouldn't have one. But if someone else does, who am I here to judge? It's her body and her choice, right? And a lot of people today, I mean, more today than ever, I think, answer that way. I wouldn't have one, but someone else should have the right to do that, right? And I answered that way. And she liked my answer. I literally aced that interview because she offered me the job right on the spot. And she said, when can you start? So I was very excited. I'm going to be honest with you. I was very excited. I quickly asked her, I won't be doing abortions, right? And she said, no, you were hired for the other side. And I started working for Planned Parenthood. This is the year, about the year 2000. I started working for Planned Parenthood in the non abortion facilities. And that's how I got there. I wanted to help people and I wanted to help my people, right?
Mhm.
And obviously, I wanted to help my family by having a 9 to 5 job with holidays off and other benefits, which is, the like, I mean, medical insurance, holiday pay, sick pay, right? So That's how I got there.
That's really interesting. Going back to your point about birth control at the beginning too, that's why it's so important to educate Catholics and everybody on like the immorality of birth control and the physical problems with birth control too, because birth control is that funnel right towards abortion. And when people don't understand that, it's really easy to slip into the culture's acceptance of birth control and thinking of a child as an object.
And you are so totally right. One of the things that I learned, and we will talk about how I learned that, is that birth control creates abortion minded women. It does. It's easier for a woman under birth control to seek an abortion. It's easier for a woman that has been using birth control to end up having abortions.
Yes. Yeah, we wrote an ebook here at HLI talking about how abortion or contraception creates the abortion culture. And that's like a big topic that we'll talk about a lot because people don't realize it. And it's really easy to say, oh, we should end abortion and not realize that to actually end abortion, you have to uproot the contraceptive culture as well. But so you worked in Planned Parenthood on the non abortion side. So what exactly did you do then?
So I started working, and so let's call it door A and door B. Door A was the preventive care side, and door B was the abortion. Now, when I'm talking about a time where this is the year 2000, they were still lining up women at the door in the mornings. Kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna make this compare them to, but kind of like when you go to the butcher, right? And they're about to kill all the cows, and they have them lining up for that butcher, right? Same concept here. Women were calling to go into appointments early. First call for serve. So you will show up to work at 7:30 in the morning. And there was a long line of women waiting for their abortion appointment up to the street, and then they will go in one by one. So, and I will be on the non-abortion side. Now, at the beginning, I will help the abortion side just by doing some lab work when they were short staffed, right? Because they needed to
Mhm.
move things fast. But I will make sure to be in my center before the vacuum noise start. That's what we will call it, right? Before you start hearing that vacuum aspiration noise, I will be out of that building. And I became really good at my job promoting birth control. What do I mean by that? I was trained, and I was groomed to go into the Hispanic communities, right? Remember, I told you they hired me because I spoke Spanish. They wanted to attract the Hispanics, especially the immigrant women, right? Which in my head was, oh my God, they're so nice. They want to take care of the immigrants, right? They're like the sanctuary of immigrants that they could come here and be taken care of and not questions asked, right? So with that
Mhm.
grooming, I went into the communities with highly immigrants, right? Highly Hispanics that were either undocumented or kind of had just moved here and started promoting birth control, right? And the idea that they put in my head is like, look, these women have been raised to not care for themselves, only care for their children and their husband, right? And whatever the husband says, it goes, right? And they're not used to even going for pap smears or breast exams because they're so busy taking care of their family. They don't do self care. It's our job to go and promote self care in that community, right? And go and talk to women, and they should come and see us for their breast exam and their pap smears, and then maybe get on birth control because, and I was groomed so well that I went and groomed in my community to tell women, hey, you don't even have to tell your husband that you're using birth control. It's your body and your choice. You're free to use birth control without even him knowing about it. You can hide it from him. We can give you birth control that he will never notice you're on birth control, right? Like the IUD, which we know it's an abortifacient, right? That
Mhm.
makes abortions. And that's why you have to tell women this IUD will give you uh, sometimes you will have this month where you will bleed and have a lot of pain. They are having a miscarriage because the IUD is doing that, but we're not telling them that because most of the time I didn't even know that, to be honest with you. I didn't even know that all the IUD was doing is preventing the implantation because that's not how it was sold to me. And obviously, that's not how I sold it to women, right? And then obviously, always minimizing the high risk, right? I mean, some percentage of women, this may happen. some percentage of women this may happen, but hardly ever happens, right? So I went into the communities and groomed women doing that and telling them that birth control should be part of them so they wouldn't have. And then to the point that, hey, and then if you are pregnant and you don't want to be pregnant, you can have an abortion and hide it from your husband too. Knowing that when you're in a marriage, that's the very first thing that it's wrong. I mean, most people that get married have sworn to be faithful to their partners, right? To their husbands, to their wives. And hiding birth control means you are training women to not be faithful to their partners, to their husbands. You're training them to hide things from them, which is, if you ask me, is the beginning of the crumble of a marriage, right?
Hmm. For sure. And that's not even to like mention the hormonal effects that it has on women, where it makes them not attracted to the men they're married to, or deal like affects them emotionally and physically, and just like on a very chemical level, how it's disrupting the marriage too.
Exactly. And I became really good at it, Colleen, to the point that I got promoted. I became the assistant director of that first center. And then eventually I became the training coordinator. At that moment, they trained me to do ultrasounds for early pregnancy, meaning that I got trained to do ultrasounds all the way to 24 weeks of gestation. That's not an early pregnancy, but that's what they call it, right? Just to gestational sizing, right? To be able to tell women how far along they are. And then I was a training coordinator. So then I trained all their people to do ultrasounds, and same thing, right? And one of the things that I remember the most about this training, it was how you were trained not to show that image to the women, not to let her hear the heartbeat, to literally dismiss any question she had by just telling her, I was just trying to take measuring sizing, so that's all I can do for you. To discourage her from seeing or requesting a picture of her baby, right? All those little things that go accumulating, but the psychological game behind it. Because when I was trained, just like going to the communities and free these women from their husbands, right? Kind of that was the mentality they injected on me. They're being oppressed. They need to know that they have to be able to take care of their bodies, and they have to be able to take care of themselves first, right? First you and then your family. Usually that's a mentality they put into women today, right?
Hmm.
And then um, same thing with the ultrasound. It was like, you don't want to traumatize them. If a woman gets to see the picture, for her, the abortion will be a lot harder to process. So they know that, right? If she hears the heartbeat, first of all, you don't know if it will be her own heartbeat. It will be confusing. If she requests a picture, what will someone want to keep that, right? What will someone want to keep her picture and remember something like this? So discourage them, because it's bad for women to want to see. It's bad for women to hear. It's bad for women to keep a picture. You see that psychological game that you could be harming women by letting them see their baby or hear the heart tone or see the picture, right? And then the same way, um, you were not allowed to use the word baby around our centers. Like it could be an immediate determination act, right? Like if someone said baby instead of the fetus, right? Same thing, I was trained and I trained others to never deliver a pregnancy test result happy. Like you don't walk into a room telling a woman, congratulations, you're pregnant, right? Like most doctors do, right? You are here to go into the room and deliver a result just like any other result, because there's zero judgment here. You see, like
Hmm.
we're not here to judge them, and they may not be happy pregnant women, because the majority of women seeking services at Planned Parenthood are usually women who are not sure of keeping their pregnancy. So we know it's our clientele. We just have to push them a little bit to convince them of that abortion, right? And by you congratulating them for a pregnancy, it's the opposite of selling your product, right? But did I understood it that way back then? No. It was like, oh, you may make her feel guilty by telling her congratulations because she may not want it to keep it, and now you're making her feel guilty. So all these psychological games that they do on the staff, and you see it right now, because I mean, Now, other year has been more clear than this one when we saw that media for abortion, that we still see how many shows show this woman that her almost lost her life because in this pro-life state they wouldn't even touch her, you know, by having a miscarriage. So we know the game that they play psychologically to people to make them feel that abortion is positive, that birth control is positive, that Planned Parenthood is positive.
Yeah, for sure. You also won Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year in 2016, I believe, as well. Was there anything specific that led to that, or was it just that you were the person that was picked for it because of you'd like risen so far in the
No,
company?
yeah, actually, I mean, that award came out from the staff voting who deserves it, right? So I won. So most of the staff all across the state of Arizona decided that I should get the award. By then, now I'm the director of two centers. I'm the director of North Phoenix and Flagstaff, Arizona. Now, both of those centers were preventive care. They were what we call them Title 10 centers, which are federally funded centers, right? And they
Yeah.
promote birth control and well woman exams and STDs and stuff like that. And with that award, you know, I never expected what came after because it was literally right after. I get the award on, I believe, October. And then right at the beginning of November, I get offer, or not really an offer, but more like a request of we need you to be the director of the biggest abortion facility in Arizona. I can tell you, Colleen, that at that moment I was like, no, thank you. Pass. I don't want it. Right? Why? Because I have been with Planned Parenthood for 16 years now, working behind the scenes, right? On the other side, let's call it on the good side, right? The side that still a lot of, even some Christian pro life people say, well, you know, if maybe Planned Parenthood just stick to that good side, right? And didn't do abortions, right? And I
Mhm.
was really good at that. And that's how I got that award. So, because I had been with them for 16 years and I know their system back and forth. I mean, I implemented the electronic system for the entire state. So during my training as a training coordinator year, I train a lot of the staff. A lot of staff that came and hired went through my center first, and then we send them to their location. So to them, it was like, I'm sure that in their head was like, well, you know, then she just has to learn a little bit about the business of abortion, and that's it. She's good. She's been here 16 years. She knows the philosophy of Planned Parenthood. She knows the good side of Planned Parenthood, the history. She's good at this, right? She's a good
Mhm.
promoter. I had been already in DC alongside Cecil Richards, advocating for Planned Parenthood and not to get defunded. So obviously, in their head, I was a perfect fit now. And it's like, I'm sure that they think that when they offer you to be the director of the abortion facility, I don't know if they think that most people are like thrilled about it, like if it's a big promotion, right? But I
Mhm.
can tell you that to the people that I know and myself, it was like, it's problems, right? You know, it's
Mhm.
problems. First of all,
Yeah.
dealing with the abortionist, it's hard. You know, they're a rare kind of humans. I'm going to tell you that right now. Abortionists are usually cold-hearted people, very hard to work with. You know, they're arrogant, they're egocentric, and the most of them don't believe in God, and most of them, you know, they think they're God, right? So I knew stories about working with abortionists. I didn't want to deal with them. Staff. I knew that the staff retention was really, really hard, that for the most part, no one wants to work there. So when they show all these people, you know, I have seen, and I know you have seen them too, in social media, you know, I'm proud to work at the abortion. I'm proud to be an abortion worker. I don't believe that because I worked
Mhm.
for that industry for 16, 17 years. No one felt proud to be there, right? So no one felt proud to be at the abortion facility. I had like the staff that had worked with me at the non-abortion facility had been with me for years and years. The employee retention at the non-abortion side was great, but at the
Mhm.
abortion facility, they barely last a year or two. That's how they were hiring me for that position because they have a hard time finding a director for the abortion side. So at the beginning, I was like, no, thank you. Like I don't want this. Like, I'd be here for too long. I don't want to do this. And they were like, well, Trump will come into office, defund us, and we will close down some clinics. So we cannot guarantee that you'll still have a job when that happens. And I was like, well, by now, through all this grooming, obviously, I'm by myself now. I'm now divorced, right? Which, by the way, like majority of my coworkers had been divorced, second marriages, or different relationships, right? I mean, because when you're in that kind of world, you're kind of not being peace at home. So I have my two children, and it's like I felt grateful for the opportunity. I'm an immigrant with the American dream now, thanks to Planned Parenthood. How can I turn them down now, right? If they've been so good to me for 16 years. Now it's my turn to help out. So, with that said, I became the director of the abortion facility right after that award. And, most people right now will call me crazy when they hear what I'm about to say, but it's the best thing that happened to me because being the director of the abortion facility opened my eyes to the reality of abortion. See, it's very easy for people to promote abortion when you're not really seeing. I mean, you have been pro life your whole life, so a lot of you were already on the side of truth. But the stubborn, like you have heard so many people today, well, maybe abortion isn't so bad in case of A, B, and C.
Mhm.
So it's very easy when you really have no idea what's going on the abortion facility. So when I tell people today, the best thing that has happened to me is to become the director of the abortion facility. God put me there for a reason. And that was to open my eyes because I was being one of those blind people that even though truth was already in front of me, I was not seeing it either for convenience, selfish reasons, good salary, I believe in the American dream, all those reasons, right? And obviously, behind that excuse, I'm helping women.
Yeah. So up until that point, you were still personally against abortion, and then you were kind of asked to step into this role and felt like you had to.
Yes, actually, I never had an abortion. I have never had an abortion. Friends of mine, I will discourage them to have abortions, not only because I morally didn't think that was right, but because, I mean, I have heard, abortion's gone wrong. So obviously, I didn't want my friends or my family to go through that, right? But still, if someone says, well, I'm still going to do it, okay, well, I will be your support,
Mhm.
right? Like, even though I will discourage them, if they chose to do it, I will still be their support, right? But yeah, it was one of those things, not for me, not for my daughter, not for my niece, right? Like, but I was okay with other women doing that. And that's what you don't realize when you're promoting this. Not my family, not my blood, right? But if someone else, another child gets killed, who cares, right? That's kind of the mentality. I see it now. But yeah, so I started, the deception. I mean, it started real quick. The biggest one was what I shared with you at the beginning of our podcast. I thought I was helping women by getting them on birth control.
Mhm.
I thought that when I promoted birth control into these communities, I was doing my part preventing abortion. I mean, I remember arguing with people on the sidewalk, right? When they were like praying, I would be like, I save more babies than you do. I give them the pills, right? I prevent them from being killed because I make sure their moms don't get pregnant, right? And those are the comments that I will make. And I strongly, Colleen, I promise you, I strongly believe that by giving women birth control, we were preventing abortion. So you can imagine my shock, my surprise when I walk into the abortion facility as a director. Now I get to see their intake form,
Mhm.
right? The one where they say what religion are they, address, are they on birth control or not, right? And I see that the majority of women were on birth control. You're like, what? So you're here. I've been seeing you on door A for pills and you're still here, right? I've been seeing you that side for an injection, you're still here. And that IUD, that she still got pregnant, and now she got into that lie that she has to have an abortion because with the IUD in there, you never know what could go wrong, right? And remove, all this web of lies that are being told to women. And then I bought it myself, right? Because for many years I promoted birth control, thinking I was preventing abortions. And then I see them all there line up for their abortions, and majority of them on birth control. It's like, what's going on here? I'm gonna tell you that I became frustrated because I'm like, did I wasted 16 years promoting this? They're here. Like they didn't listen to me, right? It's like you've been telling someone not to do something, and then all of a sudden you realize they've been doing it all along, and it was just easier for them because they blamed the pill. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning. It's easier for a woman to see abortion as an option because she's like, well, I was being responsible taking my pills, and I don't know what happened. I still became pregnant,
Mm.
right? So it's not my fault. It's the birth control who failed me. Therefore, I shouldn't carry the burden, right? Or, I'm on the IUD. You never know what could happen. They said that, the baby, something could happen to the baby. So, that's why I'm here. The excuses, right? Or the Depo-Provera. I've been on the Depo-Provera. This should not have happened to me, but we don't know the consequences of being on the shot and being pregnant. So therefore, right? So you hear all these excuses around their birth control, and that's why I say it's part of one of the reasons why a birth control may create abortion minded women, because it literally removes the responsibility to place it on something else, right? Something else failed, not me. I was being responsible. So that was one
Exactly.
of the first things. But
Um,
you wanted to say something? Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to follow up to that point. We had another guest on the podcast who was talking one time too about how birth control makes it easier for a man to walk away because it puts the onus of like preventing pregnancy on the woman. So if a man and woman have casual sex and then she gets pregnant, he doesn't think, "Oh, I should step up and be a father to this child." It's like, "Well, that's her fault. She didn't take the pill." And he walks away and then she's more likely to think abortion's her only option. So it's interesting how it works
Exactly.
for both sexes.
Agree, because the guy is like same thing, blaming it on the birth control. Well, she told me she was on birth control. That's on her. If if she didn't take her shot on time, her pill, or if the birth control failed, that's the birth control's fault. Why should I carry the burden? So I heard that too, right? But what else? For many years, I promoted when women came and got their pregnancy test, and I sold them this idea of an easy abortion, right? Hey, you take a pill, you're gonna bleed like a period, back to normal, right? It won't even feel invasive if you decide to go for the surgery. I mean, it's just tissue, right? You'll go back to normal the next day. You can work. Your life will be back to normal. Nothing happens to you. Even if women read that, the risk involved with abortion. Well, that rarely happens. I was trying to dismiss that by, hey, that rarely happens. What do I notice now? Now I'm here directing the abortion facility, the biggest one in Arizona, and that's not true. Women are getting hurt daily, Colleen. Daily, a woman left perforated. Daily, a woman left with something physical happening. I'm not only talking about the mental health, the psychological damage. I'm talking about the physical damage that I saw. Because don't get me started about the mental health. I mean, going into that recovery room, they're all sobbing, they're all crying. And you hear a nurse saying, oh, it's your hormones. You're just unbalanced right now. That's why you're so sad. But eventually, even if you start on the pill, they will go balance. They'll balance a lot faster, and you stop feeling sad. But if you don't, eventually, you will go back to normal. No, there's nothing normal about that. And stop telling women that they shouldn't feel sad for what that just happened to them, right? And that's what they do. And I heard that after seeing all these women bleeding in the recovery room, sad, looking at each other of how did it go for you, right? Like they're all facing each other in this chair and they're all feeling ashamed. right? And it's not that the pro-life people are making them feel ashamed, is that themselves, they know deep inside that that was their baby. We all know that when we're mothers, we know from the beginning. So, this is the side that constantly tells you to tell women that they shouldn't feel bad about that they shouldn't feel pain, that they shouldn't feel sadness, right? Same thing, dismissing, like, if you can imagine the phone calls. As the director of the abortion facility, I was given a personal cell phone. That personal cell phone was given to the after hours people, that if anyone call in case of an emergency, they will call me and the after hours doctor or nurse. And you can imagine. So I will get the phone calls that were not life threatening, that were more like questions. And usually I will have to hear this women calling saying like, so you guys didn't tell me I will see a baby on the abortion pill, right? Like, here's women calling in the middle of the night telling you that they taking the second set of pills, that they started their bleeding, and you didn't see me that I will see a baby. So there's a baby in the toilet. What do I do? And you have to be the person that tells her, just flush it. Don't look. Just flush it. There's nothing normal about telling people to do that, right? Nothing. Like having to tell a 19-year-old, don't look at the baby in the toilet, just flush. Just flush that baby. Don't worry about it, right? Or what do I do with it? Do I have to put it in a special place? No, just throw it in the trash. How is that normal? To tell women to grab their babies after abortion pill, just throw them in the trash. Those were the kind of phone calls. And just imagine the ones, I'm gonna die. This is so painful that I'm gonna die. Like, I'm bleeding so much. Like, no one told me. You said it was gonna be like a period. And now you're here trying to calm down a woman and make her symptoms seem minimal. No, 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 you're fine. Just put your feet up, get a heating pad, take some ibuprofen. We'll talk to you in the morning, right? Like, no, no, it's not. You just felt that way because, I mean, you were not used to this kind of pain. No, they're in labor. They're literally going through labor, and you're telling them that their pain should be nothing, right? All those things. But seeing the way women get treated there, it was all about money, Colleen. And that was another shocking wake up call from me. Um, I thought Planned Parenthood was there to help women, and this was all about money. Mayra, you need to see 50 patients a day. Mayra, you have to see, I mean, the more the merrier, right? And they have to be done like 7 to 4 p.m., not later, because that abortionist does not want to go home late, right? So it was a push, 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 push for abortion pills, push for the abortion, the surgical, right? And it was this sense that it's a business. This was never about caring for women. And on top of it, I call out the abortionist from all his wrongdoings, and nothing was happening. I call out about all the women that were getting perforated. I call out about all the how the abortionists wouldn't follow the legislations in place, the rules, the regulations, the law in the state of Arizona. I call out how they will not report minors being impregnated by an adult. I start calling out all these, to me, abnormalities that should not be happening in my center, right? And you can imagine, Colin, you can imagine. I mean, usually if someone goes to your boss or to you, hey, this is happening, you will care for that, you will take care of that, and you will make sure that things are being done right in your organization, right? That was my expectation. When I approach the supervisor team, when I approach the directors, when I approach anyone above me with my concerns about the way the abortionists were treating women, harming women, my immediate reaction was like, they're going to care, because care no matter what, right? We're here caring for women. Therefore, when I say the abortion is doing something wrong, they're going to take care of this, right? Like you will expect from any supervisor.
Yeah. What happened when you did start calling this out then? How did Planned Parenthood respond when you started calling out the abortionist for specific things he was doing?
Well, at the beginning, they were just dismissing my comment, like basically, like, oh, we'll take care of it. Oh, don't worry about it. We will handle that. Oh, and this was a medical director, so you can imagine my position. He supervises all the abortionists. So the supervisor of all the abortionists is the one doing most of the wrong things too. So it's like,
Mm.
so who's above his head, right? Um, but it was a constant of, don't worry about it. Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, we'll take care of it. Oh, we will handle that. Oh, thank you. Good job, right? So weeks go by and nothing's been handled, nothing's been taken care of. Things are still looking pretty bad. He's not changing. He's getting worse, and the abortionists around him are getting worse in my eyes, right? Now, obviously, Colleen, I didn't realize this was the norm. I mean, the other employees that had been there for a while, or they come from another center, they were like, Mayra, don't complain about him. People get fired. We don't complain about the abortionist. Mayra, don't say anything. Mayra, stay quiet, right? And I was like, no, no, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to stay quiet. So I remember there was a case of a 19-year-old. She was 14 weeks pregnant, and the 14-week abortion is through dismemberment, right? So after 12.6, they have to dismember the babies. It's by ripping their baby parts and then making a puzzle in the room, and then bagging them on ziplocs to then toss them out on red bags to be picked up by medical waste companies and then cremated with all the trash, literally trash from hospitals, right? So in this case, the 19-year-old was 14 weeks, and the abortionist did his procedure, and the legislation in Arizona said that he had to go and check personally that every baby part was accounted for, right? That he had a head, two arms, two legs, a torso. And that legislation came in effect because of all the women showing up at the emergency room with baby parts left inside them, right? So then the state of Arizona implemented that. So obviously he didn't care. No one cared about the legislation. No one cared. So he never went into the room to check to make sure all the baby parts were accounted for. And the assistant who didn't find the head of the 14-week baby. So she went back and told him, but he had already inserted an IUD, which is the intrauterine device, on this 19-year-old. So obviously he didn't want to redo the whole process. So he's like, go find it somewhere. And he was moving along to the next room, and she went into my office and she told me about it. She said, Mayra, I don't know what to do. I know he's going to fire me, but I have to tell you that I can find the head of the 14-week, right? Because then another thing is that we didn't know we had their names obviously on their chart, but you do not refer to women by their name. You refer to them by the 14 weeker of the day, the 13 abortion pill, right? The surgical patient, the 12 weeker, right?
Mhm.
They not referred as humans, right? Obviously, because that will make them a bit more human in your eyes. So, um, I'm like, okay, well, let's go back and talk to him. Well, he's gonna get mad. And anyways, I figure a way to get her out of the hot water, to call it something. And I went in and I said, hey, it seems you're not done with that patient. There's missing a baby head. Like the head is missing. And he goes, well, go find one in the trash. Like there's so many laying around, go find one. Like, go find it in the trash. And at that moment, I'm gonna confess that something not only shocked me, because at this point I wasn't shocked by anything he said, but angered me. Right,
Mhm.
my stomach got like sick, and we argue about it. Finally, he agreed to do another ultrasound. They found the head above the IUD he had inserted. The 19-year-old had to get another abortion, literally. They aspirated her again, scraped her twice, inserted the IUD twice. He failed to chart that. Didn't put it on her chart, which is falsifying the patient charts. And he did that constantly. He will constantly, instead of putting there was a complication, no complications during surgery, no complications during the abortion, right?
Mhm.
And that girl never heard what happened to her, right? Like she went on thinking that everything went normal when all this had just happened to her. I left that day. I called my supervisor and I was so angry. I said, "That's it. That's it. That's it. I'm not, he's not touching another woman. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. I will go to the health department. I will go to the medical board. I will go anywhere that I need to go, but he will stop touching women." And you can imagine they didn't like that because in the next couple days I got fired,
Mhm.
right? Like they called me into the headquarters for a meeting. And in that meeting, it's like, "Myra, while you were out of your office last Friday, we found some narcotics. So you're fine." No, I wasn't in my office. And they're like, "Well, but it's your office. So, kind of like your luck." So I knew something was up. I knew that they wanted to set me up and they wanted to create a lie that if I came out and just talk about it in public, they'll be like, "No, this is why we fired her. She had drugs in her desk, and this is why she's gone," and dismiss everything that I had complained about.
Wow. So then, so they put drugs in your desk, so they had an excuse to fire you. That's
Well,
insane.
that's a question I will never know. I never know if there was drugs. They told me there was drugs. Were there
Okay.
were drugs in my desk? We don't know. We will never know. They said they found some, but we will never know. Um,
Yeah.
so, but I knew it was to cover up, right? It was very easy to see what was happening here. So I
Yeah.
left the center and I left my meeting like, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do?" Right? Like it's just
Mhm.
me against the giant. It's me against this powerful company that has so much money that they bring lawyers from New York, right?
Mhm.
What am I gonna do? And I felt so hopeless, angry, and frustrated, you know. And when I mean, once you walk out of there, all these people were with you for so many years, and they call themselves your family. Most of them turned their back on me.
Mm.
So you feel like you're all alone against um, this organization on top of it, like with all the heavy weight of what have I been doing for all these years, right? Like, oh my God, I've been covering up this. I've been part of this, right? I've been part of this industry. And here I am with all this information. What do we do about it, right?
Yeah.
So, but thankfully, to the people praying on the sidewalk and the pro lifers, they were the ones out there for me.
So did they help you then, like, kind of leave Planned Parenthood and join like the pro-life side?
Well, yes, in many ways. But so the lady that was praying outside of the abortion facility, when she didn't see me come back, she got worried. She was like, "What happened?" Her name's Lynn. And she got concerned that she knew I had been there for many years. She knew I was always there. And then one day I just didn't show back to work. She knew something was wrong. She's a very smart lady. So one way or the other, we get connected. She invited me for lunch. I'm going to confess that first invitation, I was like, "Oh my God, should I go?" Like, what if something happens to me, right? And then once I got there, I remember the very first thing she asked was, "Would you like to get some healing?" And then I said, "You know what? Yes." So she took me to a priest, right? And then that's a whole different story because the story with the priest is so long that we will need a whole other podcast. But um, that moment, I came to him and I was very, very angry, and it's like that anger that you don't know what to do with it, right? Like it will eat you alive. And through the healing and through the process of this spiritual guidance from him, I understood that the anger I was feeling wasn't towards Planned Parenthood or the abortionist, it was towards myself. It's like that deception that you believe something and then you sold that to other people, and now you're like, "That's not true." That was not the reality. This is the truth. And now you have to go back and first admit you were wrong. And then all the damage done to all those people that you sold them the idea of a safe abortion, of abortion is your best decision, right? And it's that you, the guilt, right? And now you have. And on top of it, what do I do about all this information? So, with their help, we found my lawyer, Tim Casey. And you can just imagine how that meeting went the first time with him. When I came into his office and I told him all this story, and he was like, wow, right? And he decided to help me. And we had a case against Planned Parenthood for wrongful termination. And we actually won and making history because it's very hard to take Planned Parenthood to court, and we took them to all the way to a trial, and it took us about 18 months to get to trial, but we did. And on the trial, 10 people, 12 jurors, mostly pro-abortion, they cited that Planned Parenthood had done wrong, and thankfully in 2019, by the grace of God, we won that lawsuit. And I used that time of my lawsuit, like from 2017 to 2019, to do healing, to learn about the pro life movement, right? Because obviously, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I walk out of there pro life, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one does that. Like, most abortion workers don't leave today and then they're fully pro life, right? They
Mhm.
understood, they leave and they see what was wrong, but it's a process, right? To understand, right? To understand that how abortion has been harming women, how abortion is wrong, not only physically, but spiritually, right? And how it was harming you in your spirit too by promoting it, right? Um,
Mhm.
so I used those 2 years to learn a lot, and in those 2 years also to know that there's more abortion workers like me, that have left and opened their eyes and became pro-life, and that now I'm part of a ministry with 740 abortion workers, which is called And Then They Were None, led by Abby Johnson, right? Which, by the way, I work with her as her global outreach coordinator because we're trying to get this ministry to other parts of the world. Because, Colleen, when you walk out of here, you're thinking it's just you, right? Your world right here, right? Just Planned
Mhm.
Parenthood is just a niche in Arizona, right? Or the abortionist was just a niche in Arizona. You realize, and you know that because your organization is global, you
Yeah.
realize this abortion industry, it's corrupt everywhere in the world. Like, this is who they are.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely had my eyes much more open to that coming to HLI because beforehand, like I grew up pro-life and I saw a lot of the problems here in the US and I knew that they had it around the world, but I didn't know that much about it. And the more that I work here, the more that I realize how widespread it is and like what it's like. Like we had the podcast that came out last week where it was talking about how they would forcibly sterilize women in places like the Philippines. Um, One of my colleagues was sharing a story of these nuns he met, and he said that those nuns were telling him that women all of a sudden just stopped having kids in this one village in the Philippines, and it was because this group had come in, said they were going to give them all free pelvic exams, and inserted them all with IUDs. So you just start hearing stories like that and realizing that like this corruption isn't just here in the US or just in Planned Parenthood, but it's all around the world with organizations like International Planned Parenthood and like Marie Stopes and all these other population control groups.
Yeah,
So,
your eyes get up and be Colleen. You were pro-life, but basically will only giving the information here until you became part of an international organization. But
mhm,
I work for them. You will think that as an employee, you knew everything they do globally, but I didn't. So I was like,
yeah,
what? Like, seriously? All this money given to them to kill babies in other parts of the world, right? That to know that they have more affiliates, that there's more Planned Parenthood than McDonald's in the world, right? To know that Planned Parenthood literally helps promote abortion legislations globally. Like, it was something that shocked me as someone who, remember, I told you, I was training coordinator. I knew the history of Planned Parenthood, but I completely ignored. what they did at the global level, the amount of money they received, everything, and how their corruption went far and beyond our border, right? And it was such a shocking thing. And then when you start talking to other abortion workers, and you find out that their stories are similar to mine, right? That we all went through something like this, that we all saw the cover up and the corruption, and this is how the abortion industry is. So here we are now, trying to help other abortion workers leave the industry, because we strongly believe that if people don't want to do abortions, and there won't be any abortions too, right? And also, um, it's it, you need to change the culture and the mind of everyone around the abortion industry. Not only the woman seeking the abortion, right? Not only the pregnant women, the entire community, right? And that includes the people who may think it's a good idea to work for Planned Parenthood or another abortion facility.
Mhm. Or especially even like the people like you were, where you weren't at first performing abortions or like being involved with the performing of abortions, but were thought that birth control was the solution to abortion. So being able to outreach to people who are in those sections of the organization or who just have that mindset and be able to show them that no, this isn't actually helping women. This is just putting them on the track to abortion.
Exactly. And that's how we're going to win this battle. You guys know this because you guys, I mean, HLA has been how long in this battlefield, right? To call it something. And trying to promote that we need to change the hearts and minds of the society, of the people, just like, and I get it because as an abortion worker, that's how I ended up being changed, right? My heart and my mind changed, right? It was easy for me when I didn't see it, when I didn't see all the damage. That was easy for me to send them, you know. But once I saw the reality, once I saw what was happening behind those doors, then I understood why abortion is wrong for women. And then at the same time, why birth control created all this already abortion minded society.
Yeah, exactly. What's been your experience like becoming part of the pro-life movement? Have you ever received any pushback from pro-lifers who are like condemning you for your past working at an abortion clinic, or has it been very welcoming? How has the
Well,
pro-life?
it has been very welcoming for the most part. But yeah, I mean, there's certain groups, that they think that um, that because you had already been there, right?
Mhm.
That they either don't believe on the change, or they believe that judging you, right? That you should not be forgiven that easy, right? Um,
Yeah. The other thing I think that you would have a really interesting perspective on is as hopefully the government moves to defund Planned Parenthood, with the Department of Government Efficiency and with the new Trump administration, I feel like I'm anticipating a lot of backlash from people who think that Planned Parenthood provides essential health care for women, aside from abortion, but just with birth control and STD testing and all of that. What would be your response, and like what should pro-lifers be prepared to like say in support of defunding Planned Parenthood with regards to that side?
well, first of all, that they misuse the funds, right? No
Mhm.
matter, and that was one of my arguments, no matter how thorough they want to be, it's really hard for them to separate abortion from their funding, right? Like
Mhm.
in my case, I was the director of all those three centers, so part of my salary is coming from the federal funding too. So how did they separate my salary? They don't. So the misuse of funds. Second of all, because we have so many other facilities and doctors that literally do just promote good benefits and good health care for women, right? Planned Parenthood business, it's only abortion, and we'll know now the transgender services too. That's what their main goal is, right? And keep giving money to an organization that literally does not promote another option for women, because we know they don't do prenatal care, right? And part of my argument is that if the people that are pushing for abortions are always so concerned about the foster care system, then that funding should go also for foster care system too, right?
Mhm.
So once we had found all the other services that actually do help women, right? Um, but that could be one of the best arguments. One thing that was very frustrating was seeing the county health centers. Right, these are usually the health centers that were put up by the state or the county, and they were always trying to go into that fight for that funding that Planned Parenthood always won for some crazy reason. They offer the same services, except they didn't offer abortions, and they hardly will ever get those grants. So we have many other places where women can be helped, and we already know Planned Parenthood only cares about abortion. We saw it in 2017 when they were defunded by Trump, and all had to do was to stop doing abortions, and they didn't care. They didn't care to get defunded because they were not going to stop doing abortions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And hopefully, I'm hoping that they'll also cut the government funding of places like IPPF and other like International Planned Parenthood and the international organizations as well, because it's not enough just to stop it within our own country. But we obviously here at HLI see the impact globally, and I'm sure you have as well. So, is, is there
Yes, we
anything
have to
else?
demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2016, when Trump became in office, he did defund national level, but not at the international level. We have to
Mhm.
demand all funding, foreign and domestic. That's it. All funding towards that Mary Stubbs and International Planned Parenthood Federation and NARAL, and well, NARAL changed their name now, but all these organizations at the global level, like the Guttmacher Institute, all those have to stop. We have to stop funding them. And no, I mean, I love what HLA do. Thank you so much for being out there. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. Um, we understand what we need to do right now. It doesn't seem so positive for pro-lifers, right, this year. Um, I know that a lot of our states are devastated by the losses we had, but we must keep giving women an option of continuing the beautiful maternity and becoming mothers. They're already mothers, but
Yeah.
taking care of their babies and supporting women, that's the best thing we can do.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been great to hear your story. And we wrote an ebook actually on Planned Parenthood and some of the problems with it that came out. And I've been meaning to do a podcast episode on that topic for a long time. And I hadn't found a guest yet. So thank you for being that guest and for being able to talk about this with us.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. And to all of our listeners, please like, subscribe, follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X now, and check out the new ebook on the end screen and keep on living the culture of life. God bless.